Today's headline is the Fierce Nubian Lion. The subheadline says, "The boys play circus. 1 cent to go in, 2 cents for a reserved seat. The ringmaster's whip makes trouble." This article originally came from the New York Evening Sun. It says, the West Nyack Amusement Company Limited gave its initial performance last Saturday afternoon on what is known in the locality as the Knoll. The company is composed of young gentlemen ranging from 8 to 15 years of age, with a burning desire to make reputations as circus performers. Saturday's exhibition was a circus in more senses than one. Some who took part will not forget it for many days. Early in the forenoon, the boys cut huge piles of brush, which they carried to the knoll. Others built an enclosure with it. Others procured meal sacks and disappeared. Presently, these returned with bags full of sawdust and chopped straw. With this, the ring was made. One boy managed to procure some quilts from his house. These were hung to serve as entrances and exits. For this service, the boy was rewarded. He was permitted to be the Fierce Nubian Lion, king of the jungle. Around the sawdust arena, the boys erected a single row of seats. These were reserved and cost 2 cents each. General admission was 1 cent, and carried with it the privilege of a seat on the grass. Their performance began with an overture. The orchestra consisted of 2 pieces, a violin and a banjo. Ward Collins played the first, and Fred Conklin the latter. Occasionally, the chief performer, Frank Weeks, objected to the manner in which the banjo was played, and so handled it himself. This was between handsprings. At these times, he was simply Frank, at all others, Professor. His name depended entirely on what he happened to be doing. Many difficulties beset the performance after the overture had been finished. The performers objected when the clown, a young man of the name of Scott, made remarks concerning them that were purely personal and provoked much merriment among the little girls who were present and watched the proceedings with glistening eyes. One incident that illustrated this was furnished when the clown, in a burst of fine wit, asked the performer, "When did your daddy lick you last?" The performer stopped in the middle of his act and remarked that it wasn't any of his business how often he got licked, and didn't get licked half as much as he, the clown, did. He was too darn fresh anyhow. When these sentiments were backed up by the other performers, the clown became mute. The ringmaster subsequently caused more trouble. It was when the wild hosses of Tartary were introduced. The wild hosses, in order to increase the wildness of their appearance, wore their father's overalls and had streaked their faces with burnt matches. They pranced into the ring, displaying considerable fire, and immediately the ringmaster snapped his long whip with much vigor. His had been a position with much more honor than action in it up to this time. He ached to display his dexterity with the whip, but no opportunity had presented itself. But his time had come, and he proposed to sail right in and show what he could do. So he whirled the whip about his head, shouted "Hi, hi" to the wild steeds that were impatiently chopping bits of stick and kicking holes in their overalls, and brought the lash down across their backs with a force that made them jump in the air and shout. The band began to play, but with their entrance the performance of the steeds ended, so far as the program was concerned. Their subsequent actions, though not on the bills, were watched with much interest. It was one of those bits of spontaneity which very often helped to make up the fortune of an actor. As one horse they rushed at the ringmaster, smarting from the blow he had given them. That gentleman hastily dropped his whip and shot through the bushes at a remarkable pace. The horses followed, and were not seen again for some time. After this, Professor Weeks turned handsprings and walked a slack wire. Notwithstanding these thrilling incidents, the audience was becoming impatient for the appearance of the Fierce Nubian Lion, king of the jungle. Presently, the orchestra played a soft melody, and the fierce beast leaped into the ring. He uttered hoarse roars, and immediately 3 little girls began to utter plaintive wails for more and more. The lion's face had been streaked with flour, charcoal, and red paint, and was truly terrifying. He had a red flannel mane. He leaped into the air, roared, and then seized a large bone, and commenced to gnaw it in a fierce, blood-curdling way. At this moment, a female voice could be heard calling Henry. The effect on the Fierce Nubian Lion was remarkable. His ferocity vanished. He dropped the bone he had been gnawing and glanced apprehensively in the direction from which the cries for Henry had proceeded steadily since the first. The voice came near, and as it sounded just outside the enclosure, the spirit of that roaring lion seemed to fail him entirely. He essayed to crawl in among the bushes and hide away. Before he could accomplish this, a determined-looking woman with fire in her eye came in. The lion made a frantic plunge into a thicket, Before he could get out of sight, however, this woman had seized him by the coattails and pulled him back into the arena. Then, amid the snickers of performers and spectators alike, the fierce Nubian lion, king of the jungle, was led away by the ear, his red flannel mane flapping in the breeze behind him. And as he disappeared, a determined voice muttered, "I'll learn you to take out my good quilts and get them all dirt and dust." That ended the circus in the grove. What happened subsequently in Henry's home can only be conjectured. This story came from the great state of Massachusetts, being reported in the Boston Weekly Globe of September 6, 1890. Thank you for joining us today. If you want to continue to uncover all of America's lost and forgotten history, then remember before you leave to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and remember to like and comment below. And we will see you next time on Americana Archives.